Hello everyone, welcome to Rethinking the X-Files. This is Season 10, Episode 6. My name is Elton, and this week I am joined, as always, by Mr. Scott. How are you?
Very good, how about you?
Yeah, not too bad. So that's it. It's all over already.
I know. It went so fast. I'm not ready to go back into retirement. I have to find a new outlet for my podcasting time.
It comes and goes so quickly, though.
Yeah.
I want to jump straight into this.
All right, let's do it.
As we normally do, anyway. Okay, season. Let me just get a synopsis of this. This is episode. Oh, bloody hell! I'm in the wrong one already. This is called My Struggle 2, the other bookend of My Struggle. It says on the IMDb page, Mulder and Scully uncover a shocking truth with global ramifications. That's it. What were your thoughts on this episode?
Well, as listeners to the podcast know, I had wanted this. I thought I was not what I wanted. It was not. It had. I've kind of changed my perspective as we've gone through the 6 episodes and what I expected from the run as a whole. I did not care for the acting, the dialogue, the pacing, and not the content. It was a wholly unsatisfying episode, and probably my least favorite of the 6.
Okay.
How about you?
Okay. I didn't like the script. I didn't like the acting. This is the worst episode of this run of 6. I thought at points it was just so out of character. Even the characters that we've come to know and love over these 6 episodes just seems so... I don't know whether this may have been recorded back to back with the first episode, but they didn't seem in character yet. And so I didn't like it one little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really think of a part of it that I liked. Like that this little snippet was good, or that little scene was good. It was very unsatisfying, and even I thought at some times, well, maybe it's because of my perspective coming in. I don't know some of the characters as well, but I really tried during the first 5 episodes, and it probably came across in the podcast too, that I've been looking for what made everybody like the characters. I've been looking for patterns in behavior and all of that. And like you said, it just was just, I didn't like that. Oh, no, it's just rude. And rude's not the right word, but just it wasn't, none of that likable quality was there.
Yeah, I can tell that you've been trying to enjoy it on your journey.
Yeah, well, I have. There's parts of it. I think where you had mentioned that this was kind of a little bit of everything, and maybe they were trying to draw in some new viewers, and maybe they were. It kind of it never felt to me like they were trying to hook me in, other than that first episode. I mean, I really was engaged in that first episode. I thought the setup was good. I thought we had a parallel thing in this episode where we had Mulder kind of doing the narration and the photos being scrolled by, and we're sitting there talking about who's taking the photos and all of that. And we had basically the same thing in the first 5 minutes of this episode, and I didn't feel any of that value or connection or interest in it. Really, it was the lone part that I thought was important for the plot, and maybe again because I'm not familiar with the whole first 9 seasons, was it was really the most detailed reference to Scully's abduction.
Okay.
So we had a little bit of exposition, but I don't know that we really needed it. I mean, I've gotten the point already that at some point years ago, she was abducted. In fact, what I pictured in my head was probably more interesting or more fitting to the plot than what I actually gathered from the photos and the screenshots and stuff they showed.
Yeah, it felt as if it was going in a different direction to everything that we've been taught in the previous seasons. Mm-hmm. Granted, I don't know everything that's been taught in the previous seasons, but it felt as if the previous episodes that had come were talking about his sister and his sister's abduction, and then Scully's abduction. Mulder, I think, was abducted at one point as well. And it was all kind of interlinked, and what is going on, what's with all these abductions. And this was just bobbins. It was just terrible. All of a sudden, we got a virus that's knocking around, that comes out of nowhere, and it was just an utter mess. We had Tad, Sweaty Tad on the internet, and he bugged the living bejesus out of me throughout this whole episode. There's so many things that were wrong with it.
Well, let's look at the plot a little bit. You kind of mentioned that. So it starts with after the monologue,
which I quite liked, actually. I didn't mind the monologue. I don't mind them at all.
No, I didn't mind it, but it was kind of it didn't add anything, I guess. And at the beginning, I kind of thought it would. But so we go, and Scully is late because the garage is on lockdown for some mysterious reason. So I'm thinking something happened, and she goes into the office and Mulder's not there. Again, I'm thinking, something's happening. There's an event at the headquarters.
Yeah.
But that didn't really go anywhere, and she plops down on the desk and puts on the video, and we get our first mention of timing. It's been 6 weeks since episode 1.
Yeah, bang, we know exactly where we are. And everything that has happened in between as well.
That seems short to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels to me more like 6 months. Did you feel 6 weeks was kind of a realistic for what's happened and the progression of the characters? And
I think 6 weeks is a little short. Just where they feel comfortable with each other and where they feel comfortable in the FBI and pretty much changing all their getting all their IDs, giving their badges, and it just felt very hurried, as if it was already on standby. There you go, here's your old ID. I'm sure there's got to be more checks than that. You don't just join the FBI and 4 days later you're out on the beat and you're given a gun and a badge and then you can wade into anything. I wouldn't think it would work like that.
Well, it would also mean that the previous 5 episodes basically happened in real time. So 1 week was spent on the Weremonster, 1 week was spent in Texas, 1 week was spent in Philadelphia, and there was really there's no time in between, and yet it felt like things were happening in between.
Yeah.
So that struck me as short, and then for it to have been so short, I'm thinking he's so out of sight, out of mind. We didn't even know if he was going to reappear. I know you suspected it, but there's been no mention of him.
Who's that? Tad?
Tad, right.
Yeah.
So he disappears suddenly. This woman's vaporized. Originally I was expecting some sort of follow-up to those events, but this set of characters that brought Mulder and Scully together again and brought them back into this, it's just, they have not been mentioned at all until now.
The incident with Sveta,
mm-hmm.
Surely that should have been brought up by one of them. It should have been in a newspaper report. It should have been on a TV in the background. When they saw the were-monster, it should have been on the TV in the background somewhere there. It should have been related to a car found by this burnt-out car was destroyed. Occupants missing. Assumed vaporized. We don't know what happened there. Unless, like, the alien technology comes along, blows stuff up, and then they have, like, a sweeper collection team behind them, just sweeping stuff up, putting stuff in trash cans, and then disappearing, laying new tarmac, and that's it. It's all gone, all covered up. I just felt that was important, and it was never addressed. They didn't speak about it at all, and it just felt lost.
And so he's reemerged, and clearly Mulder knows that, and Scully doesn't.
Yeah.
She's watching the video. She starts to zone out a little bit, and the phone rings, and it's Tad OMalley calling from Mulder's house. Apparently, they've had arrangements to meet up. So this is it's not just now that he's reemerged. This has been he's been in play for a while.
Yeah, it feels like he's been there a couple of times. I don't know. Why is Tad trying to speak to Mulder on Mulder's phone at work when he's in Mulder's house?
Yeah, I thought about that. And on the second watching, I felt like he had gone to meet Mulder. Mulder wasn't there. He called the office to say, hey, I'm at your house. I let myself in. Your house is a mess. You're not here. What's going on?
Okay.
And he got Scully. But yeah, my first thought was the same as you. Like, it's all suspicious.
Yeah.
And so then we have Scully goes to Mulder's house, meets OMalley, and there's no grabbing him by the scruff of the neck. Where have you been? What happened? Why didn't you talk? What's going on? It was a very, like you said, the script, the dialogue was very stoic and it
was stagnant
false.
Beyond belief.
Go ahead.
The amount of times it was agent this, agent that, agent Einstein.
Was the worst. Her dialogue was the worst of it all.
Do agents actually call each other Agent Mulder, Agent Scully, Agent this, Agent that? Or in every sentence. You know, I feel Mulder and Scully have built up this rapport where they call each other Scully, Mulder, Scully, Mulder. It's fine. It works. Yeah. It's a friendly term. I know that Einstein is not on friendly terms with these people, but okay, you don't have to introduce her to your mother as agent whatever and this person as agent this, and stop it with the agent thing. Just felt false.
Yes. And it also struck me as that kind of insincere, when you're like, yes, sir, of course, madam, like where it's a condescending, I'm using a term of respect disrespectfully.
Yep. Because
they just kept throwing it back and forth. But OMalley they're talking about the claim OMalley made that everyone has alien DNA, and he makes an assertion that he has alien DNA.
Mm-hmm.
So then
he said that's been tested as well.
Yes, and yet he becomes sick toward the end.
Yeah.
So I was confused on a little bit with that progression. So Scully believes everyone has alien DNA, and that's what's allowed the viruses to be. When you get a vaccine, it actually infects you.
That is what is thought at the beginning of the episode, yes.
But by the end, it's kind of revealed that the alien DNA is the true vaccine. That's why she's healthy and no one else is, because she has the strand and others don't, correct?
Yeah. She has the alien DNA, and my God,
and Einstein doesn't.
Yeah, I wish they would stop saying alien DNA every other time. Every time they said Agent Einstein, they said alien DNA. Every single time, just to remind you that they have alien DNA. Yeah, so it progresses to say that Scully has the alien DNA, which is helping her immune system fight this smallpox thing. It's not called a Trojan. What was it called? Spartan virus.
Yes.
All of a sudden, this bugged me. Really bugged me. All of a sudden, she knows everything about what's going on. She's assuming stuff. She's a scientist, and she never assumes. And yet, every moment that she's on screen, she's assuming.
Well, right from the first soldier who's got the lesions on his arm, oh, it's an epidemic. You see one person showing anthrax symptoms, and at that point, Einstein's right to say, like, that's a huge leap. You know, maybe could be a dozen different reasons why he's having it. No, it's this. And that actually left me thinking that could have been the result of editing. Perhaps there was a longer exchange between OMalley and Scully where she got more information. And so she's going into the hospital with a reason for what she's saying that we didn't get to see. But that's definitely giving the writers the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but when you have a longer conversation that's off screen, it's alluded to, or you somehow know that has happened, and you can work it out that they've had that conversation. These felt very false conversations. They were very, very one sentence conversation, and that's all the sentence that we were going to be saying. There's no more, no less. What you see is what you get, and it didn't feel like they cleaned up Mulder's house and had a little conversation, had a cup of tea.
No, she called the police, and I expected it to, like, he was going to run out the back door.
Yeah.
Because he's afraid of the government.
Yeah, that's true.
But so we go to the hospital, and that's really where I began to. I don't know if maybe it was in the hospital. Did they go back to the office first and see Skinner and pick up Einstein?
Yeah, she headed back to the office. Bumped into Einstein. As soon as you walk through the door, oh, okay, there's another brick wall standing there talking to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt in the last episode. Mm-hmm. I was quite happy to see them two, and I would have watched an episode with them solving stuff. Now, as far as I'm concerned, did Scully really have to give her the drip? Maybe she didn't have to give her the drip, and just let her just die. Let's see what happens when one of these people die and doesn't have alien DNA. Let's experiment on Agent Einstein. Let's find out.
Well, we got a little bit of what we talked about last week. We ended up this time with Scully and Einstein paired, and Miller and Mulder paired. And we didn't get so much out of the Miller-Mulder pairing, but it was a very clear distinction of where they're at between Einstein and Scully. Now, here you have Einstein still being that, I'll call her young Scully scientist, almost obnoxiously so, but maybe that's what she was in seasons 1 and 2. Such the cynic and such the, where are you getting that idea from?
Yeah.
But now you had Scully, season 10 Scully, sitting there saying, you just have to trust me. It's just the way it is. It's the government. They're doing these things. I would imagine that's how season 1 and season 2 Mulder sounds.
But she's the scientist, though. That's the thing. She's the one that we turn to for a bit of common sense. And yet, when these two were on screen talking to each other, Scully is just presuming stuff and pulling stuff out of her bumhole, really.
Yeah.
And it's forcing me to side with Einstein, which I feel uncomfortable with. I don't want to be there.
Right. Well, what's missing and what I had expected there to be were the seeds of things through the first 5 episodes that she could be sitting there now connecting the dots. So I thought, we had the pilot episode, we had the OMalley revelation and Sveta and such. Then we had the babies, the birthing of the alien babies again. And that's where I thought, so we'll just a little seed. Steps 3, 4, 5, and then here she'd be having had these experiences where Einstein didn't. She could be sitting there making these claims from a science perspective, not just this emotional, you don't know what I've been through.
Yeah, just trust me type thing.
But we would have all seen why she's convinced. But then we took the detour of the other 3 episodes, and they had no mythology component. And it was a big jump then to come back. She didn't reference at any point. She didn't mention anything about the baby factory.
No, that's
I
true.
thought for a minute that's where they went when they went to the hospital.
No, that's Scully's hospital that she works at.
Okay.
I can't remember the name of the hospital, but
yeah,
some weird hospital name that you wouldn't actually want to end up being in.
Right.
It's like Hell Hospital. Why have you brought me here? No, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, it looked like the nun place, the sister place, and they walked in, and the soldier says basically the same kind of interaction they had with that one mother. So I really thought for a minute that's where they were. She's walking in and like, can you help me please? Like, oh, here we are again. Now we're going to get that experimenting on people in the hospital, and it went a different route. It went that something had triggered the plague.
Yeah, well, the doctor that she sends the army guy off with.
Yes.
That was the doctor that did her tests in the first episode.
Okay, that's familiar, yeah.
So, yeah, we have grounds to believe that is her hospital that she works at.
So, that explains, too, why she has free run of the place and she's being given a lot of privacy. And I guess she didn't quit that job to go join the FBI. That's just something she does in her spare time.
Yeah, she moonlights.
Yeah.
Just make vaccines, every now and again. Have a little tinkle.
So O'Malley says that the disease has been triggered by chemtrails.
Oh.
And it implies that his actions 6 weeks ago have escalated the pacing and all, but I didn't get that sense. Did you think that something had caused them to act now? And we certainly didn't have anything in the last, other than episode 2, we didn't have anything in 3, 4, or 5 that would make you feel like, uh-oh, they're getting too close. We have to.
Yeah, this was a stumbling block because all of a sudden it's just related to chemtrails. People are dropping stuff out. We've been exposed to some sort of virus through the smallpox vaccine, which is now triggered by stuff in chemtrails.
Yes.
And it's only now that it turns on. As if someone's turned it on, put something in the fuel, in aviation fuel, and then dropped it over the whole world. Because they said that this was going to be a pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so there was something about graffiti, and this is where the alien DNA is.
If you saw the tag, then you were...
That didn't make sense. Didn't make sense at all. Why? I just don't understand. Okay, the graffiti... Some people would start graffitiing up stuff, to mark territory, but... That's got nothing... There's no correlation between the chemtrails and then the graffiti. This is across United States.
Mm-hmm.
It's also starting in the military first. And then it's working through the population. I just felt the chemtrail story was a dead end. And why now? Why that day did it all suddenly kick off?
Right, he didn't mention the smallpox vaccine. That was a Scully conclusion.
Yep.
Yeah, he sounded much more rambling and frantic and throwing all the conspiracy things out at once. It's all connected, and there was no reason to think he'd be taken seriously either.
This Tad guy,
mm-hmm.
In the first episode, I thought he was going to work out to be their informant. I thought he was going to have all the information, but coming from a source which he couldn't disclose, but he'd have good information, and he'd be able to feed them. Maybe it was coming from the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah.
But you'd still be fed information by this guy. I was happy to go along with that. This guy just seems like PewDiePie on YouTube, just getting as many numbers as he can to get as many clicks as he can, and then all the advert revenue before it. He seems more of a fraud now in this, but he's making himself out to be a big guy with his big studio and stuff like that. There are not many people on YouTube and doing this media sort of thing with masses of studio equipment and studio settings and teams behind them to produce this sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
It just seems far overblown for what he actually is. I know he's driving around in a limousine and he's got rich off of this, but if he's got rich off of this, then surely he wouldn't just be sat on the internet on YouTube type thing.
Right, and he'd be noticed that he was missing. And who took him? Who are we supposed to believe took him away in episode 1?
Well, yeah, if you're that high profile, then when you disappear, you're going to be noticed that you have disappeared. And so you can't have it both ways. You can't be the entrepreneur on YouTube, but a millionaire. But then it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work.
Yeah, I think what was missing in hindsight is you could take the episodes 3, 4, and 5 and just have added in 2 minutes at the beginning, 2 minutes at the end of the government getting in the way somewhere. Like kind of how we thought with the terrorist attack when there were the guys in the hospital, and we thought, well, are they just racist or are they the government trying to get Scully and Miller out of the room?
Yeah.
Like just a little bit of that in each of the episodes. A little bit of an obstacle, a little bit of why is this not going as smoothly as it should, or why does this name keep popping up? Something like that could have gone a long way toward tying this all together. But this was such a leap. It almost feels like you had a 20 episode season and they picked 6 to air right now, and they picked the 1st, the 3rd, the 7th, the 13th, and the season finale, and it's just too much of a leap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not enough connected tissue, is there?
No. So we did. What happened in the hospital was what it was, but then we did get to see what happened to Mulder.
Yeah, he turned into Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
For a second. Pretty brutal.
Well, how did that go from I'm here to... I understand he was trying to take him to speak to the cigarette smoking man, but the guy was going to assassinate him. He wasn't just going to knock him out. He had the gun. He was going to shoot him.
Why do we need to assassinate him when we know that...
He'll die anyway?
Yeah, he'll die anyway. That's...
That's true.
There's an aeroplane flying over your head now. It's dropping chemicals on you. Allegedly.
Yes.
We don't need to assassinate him. It just doesn't make sense. So he gets a message to go find the cigarette smoking man, and he jumps in his car, looks pretty groggy. I kind of like... He didn't say much up until that point, but the way that he's just rolling his eyes, driving, he looks beaten up. He's taken a kicking.
But what's with... Well, all right, so you don't answer Skinner's call. But this relationship that Scully and Mulder are supposed to have, especially coming off of the last episode where they're walking in the field holding hands, and how does he not contact Scully.
Yeah.
And say, be careful, or guess who just attacked me, or,
Yeah, don't go to my house just in case it happens again.
Yeah.
I've just had someone come round with a gun trying to blow my brains out. But do you know what? I won't tell you, just in case.
So I did notice that phone tracker. I'm always interested when they show like a computer screen or something. I assume that the writers leave stuff on purpose.
Yeah.
Whatever the other icons are. Sometimes it's a little inside joke, and so whatever was there was on there. But I saw the phone tracker thing on the first time when Scully's looking at the screen, and then we see Miller use that to find Mulder. Do you think that was on? It's an unusual thing to have and to have set up that way. Do you think that was left for Scully? Like he assumed she would be smart enough to go and
possibly
do that on her own?
Possibly, yeah. The thing that bugs me about that is Mulder is... The first episode, we commented on how paranoid he is.
And how technologically inept as well.
Yes. He was having trouble taking photos with his mobile phone in the third episode. He had trouble somewhere else as well with a phone, I tend to believe. He's paranoid. He hitchhiked instead of using Uber, and he had masking tape over his camera that we mentioned in the first episode on his laptop, and yet he's left his laptop on his desk with an app that can find his phone.
Actively set up to track it as well. It would have been better had someone stumbled to find out that Skinner has been tracking Mulder all along with a government-issued phone or something.
That would have worked better.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense.
Or even if OMalley had, said, oh, well, I know where to find him. Type something. I should use my keyboard sound we were talking about. It's just there and calls it up and goes, see, you can find anybody these days on the internet. And so they tracked him down. Yeah,
the work-issued phone.
Yes.
Find my iPhone. That works. I know that can be used to find your iPhone. The only thing I can think of is he's left in a hurry, or he's left his laptop at work. He's left it there because he feels it's safe there, because he's down in the dungeons. He's also in an FBI building.
Mm-hmm.
You're pretty certain you're not going to have the bloke who steals the laptops from Starbucks walking down there and poaching his computer. The phone app thing, the only thing I can think of is that because he's so clumsy with technology, he's also clumsy about losing his phone.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can give it. Anything else, then no, don't be silly, he wouldn't have that sort of thing on there.
Well, that's the kind of thing and maybe it's a lot to ask in a long season, but when you're doing a 6-episode run, that's the kind of thing that would have gone a long way to have him lose his phone once, have Scully mention, there's ways to track these phones so you never lose it. A passing throwaway comment in episode 3 pays off huge here.
That would have been amazing. That would have worked so well.
And it just, little things like that are what's missing. And it has that feel to me of a show that has been canceled and they're just trying to throw together a quick wrap up for the fans. And I say that knowing that there's no wrap up element at all to the episode.
Oh, don't know.
No. But so he goes to see cigarette smoking man. We had another agent come in, which apparently is a character from earlier.
Oh, what was her name? Hang on, let me find her name. She was Monica Reyes.
Yes, Agent Reyes.
Yeah.
And even that, again, the dialogue.
Hello,
so
Agent Reyes. Hello, Agent Scully. How are you, Agent Reyes? I'm fine, Agent Scully.
Yes.
Oh, isn't it raining, Agent Scully? Yes, it is, Agent Reyes.
I have something to tell you. You're going to want to know. Well, what do you want to tell me? Well, you're going to want to know it. Oh, okay.
I do want to know it. I am going to
Can't
tell
believe
you
where
now.
I've been and what I've been doing here. Yeah.
Nothing about... Right, okay, I don't want to sit on this park bench because it's clearly been raining for the last half hour, but okay, let's sit down on here. Yeah. Oh, come on, they don't carry tea towels with them to wipe off the excess water. They really don't. Oh, it's just simple little things like that bug me.
And all she served was to pass along information. It's not like when Mulder gets to the cigarette-smoking man, she's standing by his side like a henchman or personal bodyguard. Although she described herself basically as having sold her soul to be his personal valet to survive the plague, but...
yeah. Can we talk about the cigarette-smoking man for a second?
Sure.
When she first walked into that room and she'd been told that he'd been burnt, he's probably fallen asleep with a cigarette in his hand, hasn't he? I think that's what we're led to believe.
Well, they said even a missile couldn't kill him, so that must be something that happened in I assumed it was something that happened in one of the movies or episodes.
I'm just guessing that he's hooked up on alien DNA. It's coming out of his eyeballs at certain points. And so he can heal himself. He's some sort of salamander that can heal himself. He'll be absolutely perfectly fine. When I first saw him in that bed, that was quite creepy. I kind of liked that. All his contorted skin, and he looked like he smelled a bit pussy.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I got off, and I thought that was quite cool. I didn't want to watch that scene again because it was so vile, but it was done really well. And I liked when we saw him again, he looked a lot better, he looked a lot healthier, and yet his face was it wasn't quite there. Wasn't quite perfect.
Well, you could tell there was something artificial or like skin grafted.
Oh, do you reckon that's alien skin?
Well, he takes it off like it was almost like a piece of plasticine covering.
Well, yeah, you had that on his right-hand side of it. As you're looking at him, his left-hand side of the face as you look at him.
Yeah.
His right-hand side. On his left-hand side, that looks less healed. Possibly, I hate to say it, alien DNA type skin.
Yeah.
Possibly. He's obviously immune, like Scully, so he's been jacked up on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know who his group is. Like, he's by himself when Mulder gets to him. He's by himself when Agent Reyes is attending to him.
Yeah. Yeah,
like, I expected
seems...
to see a group. That it wouldn't be in his cabin. It would be in an office with, around a big round table with the Prime Minister. Like every other conspiracy kind of movie. There's the Secretary of State. There's the Vice President, who's been undermining the President all along, and the Prime Minister. It's all these Lackey types who this is their chance to show the way the government should really be run.
I don't know. He seems more of he's a cloak and dagger guy, isn't he? So he's just sat there in the wings, trying to keep himself to himself so he doesn't draw attention to himself. And so he's quite happy just to sit in his house and watch this pan out. Let everyone die.
Do you think he's in charge, or is he just aware of it and prepared?
I think he's in the chain. I don't think he's in charge. I don't think he's authorising it. And I don't think he's backing it. I think he's just
aware.
He's manoeuvring himself so he is safe. He's aware of it and he's involved, but he's not the main man. Personally think that.
I can see that. Well, so I expected him to inject Mulder. So Mulder's passing out, dying on the floor, and he says, "Come on, do you want to live? You want to be there with Scully? I want you here. You make my life worthwhile." And I don't know why the cigarette man's just going to let Mulder die. I expected him to, you're fainting? Little injection gun. Well, you're too weak to resist, and now you've got the DNA, and you're on the side of the devil here now.
Yeah, so what is the long-term plan on this? They want to wipe out the humans because of what? I don't see the reason for it. Is it because deforestation or what?
It was humans were going to self-exterminate eventually. So he's just expediting the timetable. And the implications, they've handpicked some people to survive and I guess repopulate the Earth. But I mean, usually when you do, like in these disaster movies, or not Armageddon, what was it, Deep Impact, where the meteor was going to hit and they picked, almost like a Noah's Ark kind of thing. Well, we got top 10 scientists, and we'll need a botanist, and we'll need some psychologists, and farmers, and like this just felt like short-sighted. It's him and 12 generals, and they're going to take Scully and I assume William.
Oh, I like the cigarette smoking man. I like it when he's on screen. I feel there's some danger. But these scenes, when he's talking to Mulder, it reminds me of Dr. Evil.
I was just going to say, or like Claw in the old Inspector Gadget.
$1 million. Oh, God. It just felt so false, and just, when Miller's putting Mulder into the car, and then he says, oh, yeah, just tell him something before he dies. I can't even remember it. It's just a load of guff that was coming out of his mouth. But it just seemed so cliche. And
well, even Miller's like, well, and we're going to leave, and you can't stop us. And okay, you're going to go die. Go ahead. Go drive and die. Miller did put handcuffs on the guy, didn't pull. He's just kind of like, come on, we're getting out of here.
Miller's like taking his drunk dad home after a bender, isn't he? In his dad's car.
More apologetic for Mulder than policeman. Yeah, like.
Should he be arresting him or something?
Exactly, that's what I mean.
I know they got bigger fish to fry and all that, but surely he should be arresting him. Maybe handcuff him to a radiator.
Well, bigger fish to fry, but this is a man who apparently knows what's going on and feels empowered enough to pick who lives and dies. He's probably a key player in it. Yeah. Probably should bring him down to HQ.
So, I feel this story is very, very weak anyway. There's not a lot to it. Scully makes some antidote, or she finds out that it's not that everyone's got alien DNA, it's that everyone hasn't got DNA. People with the alien DNA are immune to this sort of thing going on, and so she makes a batch of her.
She shares her specialness.
Yeah, let's call it her specialness, yes.
Yeah.
her specialness in a bag, and she starts knocking that around, running around the streets, telling naughty boys off for looting as well.
Yes.
What the hell? You see people looting, you don't run up to them and say, no, stop it. I swear she clipped one of them round the ear hole as well at one point, and she's running around with the saline solution. Oh, and she's not dishing this out? How is she creating this?
Right, and in what volume and at what speed? And then she's, like you said, running around on foot or driving her giant SUV through log jams of traffic, which seem to part magically. No one else can get through, but as she drives up, they all just peel to the left and right. You create a lane for her. Like my thought was, again, the story whole, why is Skinner not involved? Maybe you don't have the whole agency, but in another show, she'd be commandeering a helicopter, and they'd be getting as quickly as she can to wherever Miller and Mulder were.
Yeah. Yeah, but, so Skinner could be dead in his house. He could have been eating his chicken supreme from that night with his missus and his kids, and all of a sudden he's died. But, you know, there's Scully with her magical potion, her specialness, walking around just helping the people that she deems
like a
worthy.
giant water balloon that doesn't break somehow with everything she's doing.
Yeah.
And somehow magically she finds them on the bridge.
Oh, God.
In the middle of a traffic jam, in the middle of a major city. They meet in the center of a bridge.
That driving down the bridge where she's weaving in and out of cars, there's... When I'm in traffic, I don't leave big gaps like that.
No, and you certainly don't move over. There was no flashing lights, no siren. There was no reason to think she was anything other than just an obnoxious person.
Exactly, yeah. I don't leave big gaps because I don't like people cutting me up like she did and just jump the whole queue. And then she can run down the middle of the road as well to get to them.
Yes.
Oh, it just so happens I got the right bridge. That's good, because there were 2 bridges there.
Yes.
That would have been funny if she got the wrong bridge and gone, I'm all the way over here. Can you see me waving? Yes, I can. I'm dying here. That's all right. I've got alien DNA. It's fine. I've got a bag full of it as well.
But she gets to them, and then he's too far gone. He needs stem cells.
What? How can you diagnose that there and then?
Yes. And as if that's something that's okay. Go find my son, who we have no idea where he is or if he's even alive. And you're in the middle of a traffic jam. Go find him.
He needs stem cells. Okay, where can I buy them?
Yes.
You don't buy them. You take them out. Are they out the spine or spinal fluid or something?
Spinal fluid. And it's got to be of someone with the alien DNA, apparently.
Oh, jeez.
Which, I mean, not to be morbid, but you had the alien DNA baby factory going on from episode 2. So, like, if you, and I'm not saying you take baby stem cells, but you had more than just her as a source of this alien DNA. In theory, aren't all those mothers and all those children?
Yeah. They
are all viable survival candidates.
And they let one of the patients kill the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
One of your people that could have created all this stem cell DNA malarkey for the rest of the planet. This is a big deal. I'm assuming the whole of the United States is crippled by this. And you've got one ginger-haired lady running around in high heels with her specialness.
Oh, but there was clearly the lights flickered. Didn't you see that? So clearly there was an effect, and there was looting of a couple of rowdy young men. There was a traffic jam on the bridge. She had to drive on the median.
Oh, jeez.
But it was, it was very contrived. And then with all of that, and I'll admit, I lost track of the time. While I found the story non-engaging and I wasn't on the edge of my seat waiting to see what happened next, I also wasn't watching the clock going, when is this over? And then all of a sudden it was over. We were on the bridge, and we only have about 30 seconds left of the episode.
Yeah.
And it was not a resolution at all.
No, would you class it as a cliffhanger? What happened? I know we'll talk about it in detail in a sec, but would you class it as a cliffhanger or what?
No. But just because I don't have a specific lingering question, I would think a good cliffhanger has resolution for most of the story, but there's one will he, won't he, did they, didn't they aspect that you're dying to know. And this just felt like, we ran out of tape. We lost the last 10 minutes of the episode. We'll reshoot it and show it to you. I'm worried that the next season will start 6 months down the road. It won't pick up where it left off. It'll be 6 months farther down the road. And you won't know what happened.
Specifically
on the bridge.
I think I want to talk about there's three scenes I want to talk about in a sec.
Right.
But with that, I think that leaves it open to if Gillian Anderson doesn't want to come back next season, then, she's disappeared. They abducted her.
I've heard people talk about the ray of light versus the Sveta ray of light. It was missing the green targeting element.
Yeah, that felt like it was a laser to kill her, and this was just a laser to point her out.
Yeah,
or a light to
point. Beam something down or...
Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree. It definitely gives her an out for having been transformed, taken away, vaporized or something, but I got the sense that the expectation is she would be there in whatever happens next.
Yeah. Okay, I want to quickly talk about 3 of these scenes very, very quickly, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First off, when that triangular spaceship thing turned up and shone its light on them, I quite liked that turning up. I liked that the cars around them, all their headlights blinked off. And there was a certain circle, there was an area around them that it's like a small EMP had gone off and everything electrical had just died. I quite like that. That was very effective, very subtle. If you didn't see it in that second, you missed it type thing. I quite like that.
Yeah.
God, I hope someone got it on their camera. Obviously, Mulder didn't. One, he's useless with technology.
But you have to think, it's not a secret. This is a very public thing on the bridge in Washington, D.C. or wherever it was.
There's hundreds of people there.
Yes.
And on the other bridge as well. There's hundreds of people.
It's not like it swooped in and grabbed her or vaporized her. It hovered and shone the light and pupils dilated. And
yeah, that was the other scene on that. I liked the eye shot where it just dropped down into her eye, and I thought that was very clever, very well done. The bit that the other scene I did enjoy, the very beginning of the episode where we had the monologue of Scully, and it was the bit that I thought I got spoiled on, where Scully turns into an alien.
Yes.
That, I was spoiled with a GIF on that, on the internet, and I kind of lost it. I was like, oh, you ruined it for me. Turns out they didn't, but I kind of wish they did. I wish that was our cliffhanger, because if we'd just found out that Scully was an alien all this time, flipping out, that would have been brilliant.
Right, or even if you had been left to wonder...
Yeah.
Since when? Post abduction? Like at what point?
That would have been amazing. That would have been magical. That would have. Oh my god! That would have saved that episode for me. But stick it on there as if it's I've got alien DNA, but I didn't want to say I've got alien DNA because you got 100 times me saying that coming up. So we just show a quick wipe into an alien, which I thought was done very, very well.
Yes, but it was done without it wasn't a dream. It wasn't. It didn't. Did it happen? Did she morph temporarily? I don't think it did, but
I don't think it meant anything at all.
No. So it took a great scene and a powerful potential aspect of the story, and it was a throwaway shot.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that we haven't covered in this? I can't think of anything. It's very weak. Very weak. I feel kind of bad for phoning you up and saying, yeah, do you want to do this? And you're like,
no.
Do you know what?
It could have been a lot. It could have been something really special. And there's so many spots, like we said, along the way they could have laid the groundwork. If not, no, we were talking about, I said a couple minutes here of the government getting in the way, or like little teases like we had in the terrorist episode, or even people seem like Scully seeming very lucky. You know, whoa, that sniper shot was deflected, or the weremonster, something tripped it. Seemed like someone was always looking out for Scully. That would have gone a long way.
Mm-hmm.
You could look back now and say, "Huh, they're protecting their prize." But it's what I thought I wanted, and maybe had it all gone that route, I would have been more satisfied with it. But
Yeah.
it was not. I actually, in hindsight, would have preferred just another. Had all 6 episodes just been kind of the rollicking adventures of Scully and Mulder and going nowhere, with no connection,
Yeah, this kind of proves that the mythology is getting weak, and the certain aspects of Monster of the Week are the strongest element of X-Files, which worries me because I kind of like the mythology. I kind of like the idea of aliens and alien tampering and abductions and stuff like that. That's what interests me. I can do the Monster of the Week every now and again, but I'm interested in the alien thing. But this was just so far removed on what anything I want. It didn't work for me, and I'm gutted. I really am. I've been whenever we've bashed down on X-Files on these last 6 episodes, I've wanted to champion it. I've really tried to. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And I don't know. I feel a bit gutted. Feel a bit let down in this episode.
Yeah, I think ratio-wise, 2.5 out of 6. If you wanted to do a little less than half the episodes on mythology, that could have worked very well with a 13-episode run, 20-episode run. I think it had zero chance of being successful, though, when you're only working with 6.
Yeah.
2.5, it was just too much to try to accomplish in that short span. But if we were talking, 6 out of 13, I think that could have worked. And it would have been nice to mix it up, Monster of the Week, mythology, things like that. Or even just a fraction of those other episodes. So what would you say ultimately out of this was your favorite of the 6 episodes?
Right. Favorite of the 6 episode. I'm torn between the first, second, and Trash Man.
Mm-hmm.
I like the creepiness of Trash Man. I think... What am I going to go with? I'm going to have to go with... the acting is a bit stagnant in the first episode, though, isn't it? I'm going to go with the second episode.
I would go the second as well. I liked the first, but with no payoff, it loses a lot of its value. And I feel like the second actually had a Monster of the Week element, and it had it's what I wish, I think, the majority of the episodes had been like. It was satisfying all around. It gave me something to wonder about, but it also felt self-contained.
Yeah. Well, the first episode it's like Empire Strikes Back. You kind of need Return of the Jedi to finish it off for you. And that's what the bookends were all about, and that's what they were going for. And ultimately, without the second episode, the first episode doesn't really mean anything. So I'm gonna have to stick with the second episode as the best one out the lot. What was your worst one then?
Well, I would say this one.
Yeah.
This finale. Because the Monster of the Weeks didn't bother me. Especially my frustration with them was that they weren't advancing a larger story. And the silliness of the third one I didn't mind as much when it's 1 out of 6, when it was 1 out of 3, or certainly as I was, okay, good season episode 1. So episode 2 is like a nice feel. It's kind of advancing it, and then a total redirect. As much as I even liked the twist of the story, it just was a little silly for me. It could have been lighthearted without being eye-rolling at times.
Yeah.
How about you?
This episode, I don't want it to be. I was so looking forward to this one. The were monster is a close run thing, because I talked myself into liking it while we was talking about it, and yet it wasn't what I really wanted.
Yeah.
I know that they're there, they will pop up, but it's not what I want. This was what I want. It was done very badly, though. Very badly. It was jarring. And there was, I think halfway through this episode, I was sat there with my fingers on my temples just going, oh, God, Scott's going to hate me for this. He's really going to hate me for
No,
this.
it was all right. Like, Fringe would take one episode a season, and it would be bizarre. It was usually like a drug-related episode, and it would be like one had a extended animated sequence. One was almost as if like the old Gilligan's Island, when they would be like all mobsters for an episode, or like you'd be like, what? How did that happen? And it would have an explanation, but it would be one silly episode that still somehow fit in the overall chemistry of the season. But it was only 1 out of 20 or 1 out of 23. And I think, again, the were monster with 1 out of 6, or at the time 1 out of 3, it's just, you feel cheated.
Yeah.
It's like, you paid for, not that you paid for it, but you invested in something, and they've kind of thrown away a fraction of it on you.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel gutted for it. I want more. I really do want more, but if it's going to be more like this, I don't want more.
Do you think there's damage done by this? Do you think this hurts the chances? Because I'm seeing a loud dislike for this finale.
Would it damage its chances? I don't think so. I think the producers know what they can do. They know what they can't do. They know what they should do. They shouldn't do. They know what we like now. It's all, people have voted on various sites, Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and all that lot. Mm-hmm. They know what ones we liked, what ones we don't. They know from the comments. They got people sifting through these comments. I've
seen an interview where Chris Carter said he does pay attention to the feedback, and then he caught himself and they said, long pause. Yes, I'm aware of what people are saying. Yeah. So in that sense, maybe it helped. You know, if he's really aware of what people wish they had, I hope it's not just one of those things where he doesn't care. This is his baby. This is his story that he wants to tell. You'll either like it or you won't.
I don't think he's like a Carlton Cuse and Lindelof. So I think we're safe in that part. But if he is listening, Mr. Carlton, Chris Carter, I nearly called him Carlton Cuse then. Bloody hell. That works really well. Can we have, I know we've had like a sort of Slender Man episode. Five Nights at Freddy's episode. That'd be great. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if I could have a small part in it as well. I don't mind getting killed. Be fine. Throw me off a bridge or something. Not actually throw me off a bridge, but put me on there and then throw my character off a bridge. That'd be great. I want it to come back, that being said. But
I would worry though about what you come back to.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger where the entire world population is infected. We've already had people dying.
Give it another 24 hours. Lots of people are dead.
Yeah, so, I mean, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
There's either going to have to be some giant leaps of what are they going to use, the chemtrails to drop the anti-serum or something like? Hey, how is the Scully saline bag going to get to the entire world population in time?
Yeah, drop it in the chemtrails, and then
Like, it didn't have to be that severe. You could have had Mulder sick, had that same drama, that same sense of urgency, and I mean, it could be aliens in the ship here to help and fight the government. They're here 60 years later to right the wrong and seek revenge against the humans who killed their brothers and have been using their DNA for evil.
The aliens are on our side, and we've always thought that they weren't. And it's always, we're against the government, really.
But it's because they've created this urgency. It's, I mean, you can't just sit there and have it be Mulder gets back on his, like an old Star Trek kind of thing. Captain Kirk picks himself up and he has a fist fight with the enemy, and as he defeats the enemy captain, all's right in the world. No, they have a lot of work to do to try to fix things.
They've painted themselves into a corner where millions of people are going to die by the next episode, and they've got to explain how they got out of that one with a couple of...
And the only solution is stem cell DNA from a kid who's been referenced in every episode but may not really be alive or exist in, you know.
Jeez, that
he's
kid...
going to have to be in the ship. He's going to have to be in the ship. Because that's the only way they can heal Mulder.
They
can't be looking for him. So he has to be there, as they brought him to come, Mother, just come with us. And then it has to be. There's no other way they can save Mulder.
Do you know, I didn't even think about that. He could be in the ship. Oh my god.
Don't you? I mean, they could do anything, but to me, that's the only plausible way you're saving Mulder, because they don't even know where to look. There's been no reference. There's nothing.
That's so bad.
They're stuck in traffic.
That's so bad. If he is in that ship, oh, jeez.
And it may even be not so much to save her, but to win over Mulder. You know, come on, Dad, don't die. Come, it's.
Do you know? Thinking about it, I'd rather them just start and
just vaporize them and start over.
Either vaporize them all, or like Simpsons does, just reset at the beginning of the next episode. Nothing really happened.
Yeah. I was just watching something the other day, and they said, like, I sure hope next week, you know, things are back to the way they were. Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they will be. And it's like, that's what you need. Just
that.
Yep. So, do you think the weremonster survives the plague?
Yeah, he finds some sort of tree that doesn't permit the chemtrails to go into it. I don't know.
And the artist will die, right? The trash man artist.
Yeah, he's dead.
And the children from episode 2, they survive because they have the DNA.
They're flying the ship as well.
2, 3, 4. Who else? What other? Oh, the terrorist is dead. So.
Tad OMalley. When he was getting the flu on his live broadcast,
he didn't look that sick.
Well, was his computer getting sick as well? Because that started to break.
Yeah.
He started flickering. I know he said lines of communication were being broken, but with lines of communication, either they're broken or they're not broken. They're not.
Well, like I said, the lights flickered, so that had to be, the infrastructure falling apart.
But his computer coughed, and it kind of fuzzed around a little bit. And no, it wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's either there or it's not. It's the internet. It's all digital. It's all ones and zeros. Either the ones and zeros get to your TV or they don't get to your TV. That's it. You don't get some.
That was a bit of a letdown for me. After the first episode, I we talked about the special effects, and I thought, generally it was good, and I thought through the first couple episodes they had pretty much stayed away from being CGI and a lot of special effects. But this one, I thought the scenes with O'Malley's studio, something didn't sit right with me. Like and maybe it was because we were supposed to be watching through a screen, and it felt like I was watching it live. It just, or maybe it was because it was just too opulent. Like you said, it was. How's he got this giant studio like he's on network television at 11 o'clock? It's something didn't seem right about it all. It didn't have a grit or a
no, that's right.
underground element to it.
Yeah, it lost that. It was too clean and shiny, wasn't it?
Right.
Should be more like Wayne's World.
Yeah. Well, and I think we also had a lot of episodes that cinematography-wise were good. I think we talked in one episode about like the palettes and it just some episodes felt right. The darkness or the light and the blueness, the grayness, and this one, the hospital scenes were so dark.
Yep.
And then that Tad OMalley scenes were so bright and computery, and it was a bit much.
Yeah, there was not enough balance in between it. There wasn't enough flow through the whole lot. I didn't like the studio things. I always have a problem with when you see people on studio sets on a TV set, if you know what I mean. Kind of a third person on the studio. It never works for me. Mm-hmm. Never works. Never like it. I think it's familiar things from unfamiliar angles, maybe. I don't know. I just didn't like it. I don't like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think we've talked enough about this. I think I hate to say it, but wasted our time on this a little bit.
Well, I would throw it out to the listeners that if there is enough interest, I know we've had a couple of the Mixler sessions and a couple of instances. Sorry, my dog in the background is having a fit.
That's cool.
It's the government. They're getting to her. See, there you go.
She can smell the chemtrails.
Yes. But, I think if there was enough interest to have a short little group discussion, maybe we can have a follow-up. Because, we've shared our views and we've read what other people have said. But if people are interested in taking some of those comments and tweets that we get and having a little bit more of a dialogue, maybe we're missing something. Because you haven't seen the whole series yet, and I'm new to the series. Maybe we could do a short follow-up. But other than that, I think you're right. I think I wish there was more to anticipate and to be excited about.
Yeah.
But it's not at the moment.
It's kind of a weird feeling, isn't it? It's sad trombone time. But if there are any more episodes after this, I'm more than happy to cover them for people. I'm willing to give up that time and to maybe get back my sanity about this. I will always do that. I've got no problems in that. If anyone wants me to cover, or us to cover, any old episodes, I'm quite happy to dive into the archive and let us know what would be a good one to cover. I couldn't pick any out. There's obvious ones like Tombs and Squeeze, but they're all from like season 1 and season 2 and stuff like that. So I'm willing to cover old stuff in the future. Mm-hmm. I think we'll put this on a hiatus for now.
All right. And
see what happens. If people want us to talk about it, if they want to come on and talk about the last 6 episodes, then we'll have one more episode. But if there's not the outcry for it, then we won't.
I'll crawl back in my cave.
Yeah.
Go back under my rock.
Yeah, we just turn the lights out and take the pencils from the ceiling.
Yes. I think I can find another outlet for my sharing of views.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting there rethinking my mailbox. Today I've received 2 bills. It's not quite the bills I was expecting to receive. I was kind of hoping for a bill from the phone company, but I'll be looking forward to next week's delivery.
I'd listen to that. I think I would, yeah. So how are they going to get in touch with us? Well, you can get in touch with us on the Twitter. I'm Elton McManus, and Scott is SHC1970. You can always tweet us and let us know if you want to come on, if you want to chat about it. We'll all Skype, we'll all hold hands and sing Kumbaya about the X-Files. I've got no problems in that. We've got the Shonky Lab page, which this is thrown up on, which is facebook.com/groups/the Shonky Lab. Was it? No, Shonky Lab. It's not the Shonky Lab, it's just Shonky Lab. I normally post these episodes up there because Shonky Lab is coming back very, very soon, because now X-Files is over. I can resume the Shonky Lab.
There you go.
Anything else to plug? Pop over to rogue2.com. That's where you can find all these episodes, all old episodes as well. Myself and Scott used to do Apotheosis of a Bombast, which is at bombastpodcast.podbean.com. And we also have Rethinking Lost, which is rethinkinglost.podbean.com as well. It's all on iTunes, it's all over Stitcher, it's all over the place. So there's no excuses for not downloading that stuff. I think
you should reconsider Fringe if you find time to. I mean, if you find it in a bin somewhere cheap, or if
I might go hunting for that now. I've done my Boardwalk Empire, I've done my Sopranos. What am I doing now? What am I actually watching? I haven't got anything. Oh no, I've just bought Mad Men.
Oh, there you go.
But I'll always put that on the back burner.
Well, I would say your first season is going to have a lot of Monster of the Week, and the mythology set up in that first season, which I know you said you were having trouble buying into it. It kind of gets there's a reboot of sorts that happens partway through, where some questions are answered and some are just kind of made irrelevant.
Right.
But it's not, it's not unsatisfying. What it's replaced with is good enough, and then it becomes much more. By the end of the show, it's pretty much pure mythology, week to week. But it becomes much more of like a serial kind of show, like with the tone of like a Lost, where you're what will happen and wondering about characters and such.
Cool. I'm thinking about diving into the 100 as well.
That looked good. I don't know much about it. I kind of decided I'd wait and see, having been burned on shows that disappeared without resolution. But yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for that too.
See, there's all the stuff that we could talk about. It can be possible if you donate to the Patreon that we have, which is patreon.com/rogue2media, and that will help us buy equipment, buy more time onto the Mixler so we can broadcast this live for as long as we want to, and it just generally help us out. And the more we get, the more shows we can put out. So
yeah, it might be worth mentioning. Just people might not realize it's general, just ballpark figure. I know, like for Bombast and Rethinking Lost, it's not something that can be free, because where the episodes get stored in the bandwidth. So it ends up costing at least, I'd say, $50 a year just to make those available with limited listenership. If you're lucky enough to have it be popular, they count how many times it gets downloaded, and then they give you a bill and they say, "Hey, congratulations, you have 200 listeners. You no longer fit in the $50 class."
Gotcha.
So that's where the Patreon certainly would help. If people feel like supporting, that's where it goes beyond the equipment. Just even the hosting websites, that all tends to cost, unfortunately.
Yeah, hosting Shonky Lab as well. This is hosted onto a Libsyn account, which is where Shonky Lab is held as well. So that's all costing per month as well. And then you've got the website hosting as well. So if you
it's
don't...
not just charity. There's an actual expense that you're looking to offset.
Oh God, yes. It's not going to die. It's not going to disappear if nobody contributes. So don't worry about that. But it all helps.
Yeah, every penny helps.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was fun. I appreciate you reaching out. I hope we have more opportunities to podcast.
I'm sure we will. Thank you.
I'm a freelancer now, folks. Reach out. You want my opinion on anything? I can fake it.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you to everyone who's downloaded this. Thank you to the future downloads as well. I'm sure we'll get many, many of them. Thank you for giving us some time to talk X-Files to you guys. It has been a pleasure, even though we sound like we're burning it every now and again. But, that's going to happen. I've got no problems.
That's fun, though. It's having something to talk about. That's a pleasure in itself. Exactly,
yes. If it gets you wound up, then that's good. If it gets you happy and pleased about it, then that's also good. So, yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, Scott, for joining me for these 6.
All right, thank you.
And we'll catch you guys later, I suppose.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello everyone, welcome to Rethinking the X-Files. This is Season 10, Episode 6. My name is Elton, and this week I am joined, as always, by Mr. Scott. How are you?
Very good, how about you?
Yeah, not too bad. So that's it. It's all over already.
I know. It went so fast. I'm not ready to go back into retirement. I have to find a new outlet for my podcasting time.
It comes and goes so quickly, though.
Yeah.
I want to jump straight into this.
All right, let's do it.
As we normally do, anyway. Okay, season. Let me just get a synopsis of this. This is episode. Oh, bloody hell! I'm in the wrong one already. This is called My Struggle 2, the other bookend of My Struggle. It says on the IMDb page, Mulder and Scully uncover a shocking truth with global ramifications. That's it. What were your thoughts on this episode?
Well, as listeners to the podcast know, I had wanted this. I thought I was not what I wanted. It was not. It had. I've kind of changed my perspective as we've gone through the 6 episodes and what I expected from the timing. It's been 6 weeks since episode 1.
Yeah, bang! We know exactly where we are, and everything that has happened in between as well.
That seems short to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, it feels to me more like 6 months. Did you feel 6 weeks was kind of a realistic for what's happened and the progression of the characters? And
I think 6 weeks is a little short. Just where they feel comfortable with each other and where they feel comfortable in the FBI and pretty much changing all their, getting all their IDs, giving their badges, and it just felt very hurried, as if it was already on standby. There you go, here's your old ID. I'm sure there's got to be more checks than that. You don't just join the FBI and 4 days later you're out on the beat and you're given a gun and a badge and then you can wade into anything. I wouldn't think it would work like that.
Well, it would also mean that the previous 5 episodes basically happened in real time. So 1 week was spent on the Weremonster, 1 week was spent in Texas, 1 week was spent in Philadelphia, and there was really there's no time in between, and yet it felt like things were happening in between.
Yeah.
So that struck me as short. And then for it to have been so short, I'm thinking he's so out of sight, out of mind. We didn't even know if he was going to reappear. I know you suspected it, but there's been no mention of him.
Who's that? Tad?
Tad, right.
Yeah.
So he disappears suddenly. This woman's vaporized. Originally run as a whole, I did not care for the acting, the dialogue, the pacing, and not the content. It was a wholly unsatisfying episode, and probably my least favorite of the 6.
Okay.
How about you?
Okay. I didn't like the script. I didn't like the acting. This is the worst episode of this run of 6. I thought at points it was just so out of character. Even the characters that we've come to know and love over these 6 episodes just seems so... I don't know whether this may have been recorded back to back with the first episode, but they didn't seem in character yet. And so I didn't like it one little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I can't really think of a part of it that I liked. Like that this little snippet was good, or that little scene was good. It was very unsatisfying, and even I thought at some times, well, maybe it's because of my perspective coming in. I don't know some of the characters as well, but I really tried during the first 5 episodes, and it probably came across in the podcast too, that I've been looking for what made everybody like the characters. I've been looking for patterns in behavior and all of that, and like you said, it just was. I didn't like that. Oh no, it's just rude, and rude's not the right word, but just it wasn't. None of that likable quality was there.
Yeah, I can tell that you've been trying to enjoy it on your journey.
Yeah, well, I have. There's parts of it. I think where you had mentioned that this was kind of a little bit of everything, and maybe they were trying to draw in some new viewers, and maybe they were. It kind of it never felt to me like they were trying to hook me in, other than that first episode. I mean, I really was engaged in that first episode. I thought the setup was good. I thought we had a parallel thing in this episode where we had Mulder kind of doing the narration and the photos being scrolled by, and we're sitting there talking about who's taking the photos and all of that. We had basically the same thing in the first 5 minutes of this episode, and I didn't feel any of that value or connection or interest in it. Really, it was the lone part that I thought was important for the plot, and maybe again because I'm not familiar with the whole first 9 seasons, was it was really the most detailed reference to Scully's abduction.
Okay.
So we had a little bit of exposition, but I don't know that we really needed it. I mean, I've gotten the point already that at some point years ago, she was abducted. In fact, what I pictured in my head was probably more interesting or more fitting to the plot than what I actually gathered from the photos and the screenshots and stuff they showed.
Yeah, it felt as if it was going in a different direction to everything that we've been taught in the previous seasons. Mm-hmm. Granted, I don't know everything that's been taught in the previous seasons, but it felt as if the previous episodes that had come were talking about his sister and his sister's abduction, and then Scully's abduction. Mulder, I think, was abducted at one point as well. And it was all kind of interlinked, and what is going on, what's with all these abductions. And this was just bobbins. It was just terrible. all of a sudden we got a virus that's knocking around that comes out of nowhere, and it was just an utter mess. We had Tad, sweaty Tad on the internet, and he bugged the living bejesus out of me throughout that whole episode. There's so many things that were wrong with it.
Well, let's look at the plot a little bit. You kind of mentioned that. So it starts with after the monologue,
which I quite liked, actually. I didn't mind the monologue. I don't mind them at all.
No, I didn't mind it, but it was kind of it didn't add anything, I guess. And at the beginning, I kind of thought it would. But so we go, and Scully is late because the garage is on lockdown for some mysterious reason. So I'm thinking something happened, and she goes into the office and Mulder's not there. Again, I'm thinking, something's happening. There's an event at the headquarters.
Yeah.
But that didn't really go anywhere, and she plops down on the desk and puts on the video. And we get our first mention of